What I wanted to talk about today, and I'd love to say I have coffee, but Whitney is grabbing me some more coffee because I reached the end of my cup. What I wanted to talk about today, once we get the coffee in place, is the cost of removing and replacing a structure. And I don't mean, I don't know if we're starting the clock now, Patchouli. I don't mean like the emotional cost of removing and replacing a structure. I'd like to focus on two different types of cost. And one of them, I think we can only talk about theoretically. And the other one, I think, Matt, with a little bit of, spreadsheet skills that I could do here in the background, we can come up with actual values plus or minus. So the two things I'd like to focus on is the carbon cost and the monetary cost of ripping out and replacing a deteriorated concrete structure. Because I don't think people really talk about that. And what we can focus on, thank you, my love. What we can focus on is, I don't know, let's say Manitou Springs, concrete bridge. It's been there since the 50s. And it's starting to show its age. In 10 years, we've got to rip it out and replace it. Now, what's that going to cost the taxpayer, Matt, and Whitney? First, the carbon cost, and then the monetary cost. I apologize if I'm blocking you up. So it's beyond its intended life cycle. Okay. But of course, most municipalities, call it Palmer Lake, call it Manitou, I don't care. They always try to extend life of something, push it because they don't have the time, resources, or the people to replace something right now. So they're going to keep it as long as possible. And this is a situation that we've had to deal with many times with municipalities. Hey, how much longer can we keep this?
Right.
So let's say they're going to rip out and replace it. It's a medium-sized bridge, 4 lanes. The cost of it, I mean, you've built those before. You provided concrete for those types of bridges before. How much concrete are you talking about?
So is this, you say, a 4-lane bridge over an interstate?
Yeah.
And we're talking girders, precast, pre-stressed. Oh, wow. You got me as far as guesstimate, but I'm going to say a couple $100 million anyway, right?
Hey, let's just say 1 million to make the math easier. And, we could do plus or minus. Sure. So 1 million cubic yards of concrete. And that just gives us a rough guesstimate. Size the bridge down for our listeners, size the bridge up. So 1 million cubic yards. And today's cost of concrete, delivering, and I'm just talking material. I'm not talking about labor here. And I'm talking about delivering concrete per cubic yard is as little as, for a bridge, Matt, I'm going to throw a number out there, $300 a cubic yard.
I mean, around here locally anyway, the bottom line stuff is probably right around 200. So for a bridge, yeah, you're probably getting up around 250 to 3. But I mean, if you just want to do quick math, I'd say it's probably going to be around $1,250 to $2,000 a cubic yard just for everything associated with that million cubic yards to build the bridge.
Okay, I guess say that one more time. So I've got my calculator. I got 1,250. So I've got 1 million cubic yards times 1,250. So we're talking a lot of freaking zeros. What is that?
1.25 billion.
1.25 billion. So for our listeners out there, imagine you're a taxpayer in a small town, because remember, we said a medium-sized bridge. You can even call this a small bridge. But the time that is associated with shutting that bridge down, because a 4-lane bridge means you're getting to work in 15 minutes as opposed to driving around and having to do a 2-hour commute, right? And Matt, Whitney, how long does it take to demolish and put up a 4-lane bridge? Is it weeks or months?
Oh, months, easy.
Yeah, months for a small one.
Right,
years
months
for a bigger one.
Yeah, right.
So we're talking about a medium-sized bridge. So, and I'm just using what Matt said, and Then he had a smirk on his face because I think it's going to be more than 1.5 years to put a big bridge up. You know, we're talking about 3, 4, 5 years. Here we're talking about a big bridge or a medium-sized bridge. So it's somewhere around
1 to 2 years.
1 to 2 years. And that's if everything goes right. So now all three of us in a span of a few minutes have just demolished the price conversation, right? So that $1 billion 1 to 2 year project is what is going to be put on the taxpayer. And that is what a local engineer who has a 4-year degree engineering under his belt has managed a number of projects. Now he's looking at this $1 billion price tag in 10 years and saying, holy shit, I hope that bridge doesn't break down sooner.
Sure.
Because I could possibly make that happen in 10 years, but 1 billion and change,
Right.
that's hard for me to just pick off of an apple tree. Right? So, you know, the carbon cost,
Sure.
can we even mention that? Like, how do we begin to talk about that? Matt, you said you had no clue, but if you had to come up with or a conversation, how would you start that conversation? The carbon
Well,
cost.
I'd say, do we have enough money to figure out what the carbon cost is just to have the conversation? Because and when you start building a bridge, it's more than just, I'm experienced with determining the, you know, the embodied carbon or the greenhouse potential or global warming potential of a concrete mix design.
Sure.
But now we're talking about, you know, bringing all the different trades and all the different dirt work and machines and materials from all over the place, and all of that impacts that number.
And the delay in traffic, right? Those cars sitting there puffing out the exhaust because of just the extended drive time over how many years?
I am famous for saying, I hate the idea of building a 100-year bridge or a 100-year concrete structure. Whitney used to take the roads in Hoboken, New Jersey,
Right.
that were built in the 1920s. The Lackawanna train station is the oldest effing train station in the United States, and it was built in like 1921,
Right,
1921, 1922. That's fucking Tiffany skylight
It's gorgeous.
windows,
It's gorgeous.
gorgeous skylight windows, because they didn't have lights. Light bulbs were not freaking standard when this train station was built. 100 years later,
Right.
driving in Hoboken, it's shit.
Oh, yeah.
Why the hell would you want to design something? I would rather say I want to design something that lasts 30 years
Sure.
with no fucking maintenance,
Right.
and I get to make the decision if I want to go further. Now what we're talking about is a concrete bridge that was put into place 75 years ago, and we're trying to extend its life because, one, the carbon credits, the carbon movement, it's more important than the traffic and the people, but 2, the people, and 3, the resources.
Sure.
So how the hell do we do it? And there is the plug. Listen to that. Church bells or chimes are singing. Here's the plug for EDYSTON. In lieu of doing that, extend the life of your concrete. Forget, I have to make this decision in 10 years.
Right.
Now I can make the decision in 20 years.
Right.
If I'm only stopping the migration of chlorides by changing the tortuosity, rejuvenating that concrete like I would do to my skin with a moisturizer. You know, I try to convince Whitney that we should have named EDYSTON, the products, a French name. And I'm not joking.
Ugh.
Right. And I did that, and I even have some French names.
Yeah.
One of them was called Eau de Soleil. And that sounds great, doesn't it?
A little pretentious, though.
Little pretentious for Whitney and for Eric, because Eric's like, that's not happening, man. Oh, check this out. Our new hats.
I can't read it. Oh, nice.
Thank you. We should
I
be
like
getting
it.
Thank
I
you
want
very
one.
much. You're not entitled to one. Matt has one. Matt
Hey,
has one on his desk
rude.
right now. No, you got one. Where was it?
Velocity.
Changing the tortuosity, creating more of that backbone, that superhero of concrete strength, to give the city planner, the municipal planner, the engineer, whoever is in charge of this asset, to give them a little bit more time to come up with $1.25 billion.
Sure.
And I tell you something, using something like EDYSTON, using EDYSTON in lieu of just
Right.
putting their BS sealer and healers.
Right, or freaking paint, because sometimes they just throw paint down.
Well, that's what their sealers and healers are,
Right.
methyl acrylics
Sure.
or epoxy
But
resin.
they're not meant to just throwing a Band-Aid over a gushing wound, right? Like it's just
That's
not doing the job.
that's where we're at.
Right.
They would rather put a Band-Aid over a gushing wound and just ignore it, out of sight, out of mind.
Right.
And when has that ever gone wrong? So what we're talking about now is putting the antibiotic
Sure.
on the wound before you dress it. And that makes sense to everybody.
Right.
Like whether you have kids or you have pets or you have the infirmed or whether you are a hermit living in a flipping cave, you understand that a wound will heal faster if you
Right.
put some type of antibiotic on it
Right.
before you dress the wound.
Right.
Am I saying that? Can we say that any other way?
No, I think that's the best way to say it. I mean, the most direct way to say it.
Okay, hey, I just got some cost perspectives.
Let me hear it.
Just real quick, maybe a medium-sized 4-lane bridge, 1 billion may have been a little high, but the Oakland Bay Bridge in San Francisco, California cost 6.4 billion. Now, but what that doesn't say is in what year. Because that bridge, I don't think they've put in a new bridge lately, have they?
Yeah.
The Oakland Bay Bridge. No, I think we would have heard something in the news, but hey, let's just look it up.
33.
The Oakland Bay Bridge. Are you talking about the one in San Francisco?
Okay, here you go. For spans up to 40 feet, a double lane is $2,500 to $3,000 per linear foot.
Wow.
For spans larger than 40 foot, take it up by 33%.
Okay, so first of all, 33 is my lucky number. The Oakland Bay Bridge was built July 9th, 1933. And I could tell you from here, just looking at this picture, and I don't know how I'm looking at this on my other computer,
Steel rivet system.
but the foundation of it is good old concrete.
Okay.
And that's what I'm looking at right now. You see that middle pillar?
Yeah.
It is just bleeding, Matt.
Yeah.
Bleeding. And eventually that either has to be removed and replaced, or at the very least repaired, because that much blood, you want to talk about a gushing wound,
Yeah.
that's hemorrhaging.
Right.
Do you have that picture, Matt?
No, I can look it up though.
Just say goodbye to the team.
I gotta head out for another appointment. I'll see you guys later.
See you later. Have a good day.
Yeah, and why I like this picture of the San Francisco Oakland Bay Bridge. I mean, this is a lot larger than what we were talking about, a medium-sized bridge, but shoot, I don't care the size of the bridge. Every bridge that we're going to talk about has some type of, whether it's a galvanized steel riveted, or even a concrete bridge, it has some type of concrete foundation. And Patchouli, I don't know if you could pull up the Oakland Bay Bridge construction year, just throw that into a Google search engine. I'll send you the picture later. But from a distance, you can see that the concrete is bleeding. Now, what EDYSTON does is it turns that frown upside down. It turns that what's causing that bleeding, what's causing that hemorrhaging of that wound, and turns it into an obstacle into an opportunity, and gives that end user an extra 10 years to play with the concrete and make decisions about, hey, when I've got to remove, replace, or repair this structure. So thanks for joining us. We hope to answer your concrete questions, your concrete concerns. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Ding that bell for notifications. Go concrete.
Beat asphalt.